How's it going, you excellent bunch of bakers? Hope you're having a great day so far. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'll show you how to make extra chewy bagels. Let's get in the kitchen and get started. There are at least 4 more bagel recipes on my channel, and they're all slightly different from each other. See, I'm never totally happy with what I bake, and that is what keeps me at it. Adjusting ingredients and methods is the whole point of bread making. But saying that, 4 bagel videos should be plenty. But recently someone asked me if we could use a scalding method for making bagels with. So here's the 5th bagel recipe. What is interesting is that a bagel is already scalded, but only on the outside. By taking a part of the total flour, scalding it, and then mixing it into the bagel dough, results in a super chewy bagel that is scalded inside and out. So let's get right to it, let me show you how it's done. And we'll be making 2 versions today, one with whole wheat flour and one with white bread flour. The only differences between the two will be the choice of flour and the hydration. The whole wheat version requires more water. The ingredients that we'll use today are flour, water, yeast, salt, oil, honey, an egg for glazing, seeds to sprinkle on top. We'll need some water for boiling, some more honey and some baking soda. And as always, you can adjust these recipes to your liking. Use a different fat, don't use the egg. Do a mix of flours instead of just one type of flour. It's your bagel. Make it how you want it. Equipment wise, we don't need much. A tray with some non-stick paper, a pot for boiling, a bowl, scales, a dough scraper, temperature probe and a brush. And it all starts with the scalding step. If you have watched my channel for any amount of time, you know I love this method. And you probably know all about it. Scalding works wonders when it comes to softness. Part of the total flour of a recipe is mixed with boiling water. The boiling water cooks the starch in the flour. The starch swells up and holds onto the water, and the heat cooks the gluten-forming proteins in the flour, which makes the dough weaker. The weaker gluten, plus the ability of holding on to water, results in a very soft bread which doesn't stale as quickly as others. And all it takes is the mixing of 2 ingredients. Once the scald is fully mixed, cover it up and leave it to cool down to room temperature. If you don't want to wait around, just pop it in the fridge. Once the scald has cooled down, we can move on to mixing the dough. Add the yeast, the salt, the oil and the honey, and then give it a good mix. Finally, add the remaining flour and mix to a dough. I'm working with a small amount of dough for demonstration purposes. Each recipe makes 2 large bagels. If you want to scale up the recipe, simply multiply all the ingredients. As ever, I'm looking for a final dough temperature of around 24 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit. If your dough turns out warmer, it'll ferment more rapidly. If it's cooler, it'll take longer. This is a pretty quick bake. Whilst I am a big fan of cold fermentation, this time I decided to do it all at room temperature. You could of course pop this dough in the fridge after mixing, then give it a fold about half an hour later and leave it overnight. Cold fermentation will improve the flavor and it will make the bagel even chewier. I would suggest increasing the hydration a little bit though. Okay, the dough is fully mixed, let's give it a quick temperature check, then cover it up, leave it to bulk ferment. My kitchen is around 23 degrees Celsius or 73 degrees Fahrenheit. At this temperature, bulk fermentation will take around an hour and a half. It'll be punctuated by a single fold halfway through at a 45-minute mark. This dough is not sticky at all. You could fold it on the table if you wanted to. I decided to fold it up in the air. Simply push the sides of the dough down, then push them back up into the center of it. Once it feels nice and tight, place it back into the bowl, cover it up, and leave it to ferment for another 45 minutes. It should be twice as big since it started fermenting. After bulk fermentation, we can divide the dough and pre-shape it. If you want all your bagels to be the same size, you must weigh your dough before you divide it. The shape we're going for now is a round ball. To achieve that, dust the dough lightly with flour, then flatten it out, fold the edge over the middle, go around in a circle to reach point where you started. Once the dough ball is nice and tight, pick it up and pinch the seam together at the bottom. I could have also used this method for folding earlier, but I did it up in the air to save myself from cleaning the table another time. Usually, after pre-shaping, I will let the dough rest for 15 to 20 minutes. This time, I will leave it for longer, and that is because I want it to be stretchy enough to stop it from tearing when doing the final shaping. So we'll dust the dough balls with flour, cover them up so they don't dry out, and leave them to rest for 30 minutes. Bagels can be shaped in different ways. I like to use the easiest method. There won't be no rolling, no twisting. We'll simply dust the dough balls with flour and poke a hole in them. Stick your finger right through the middle of the dough until you reach the table. Rub it against the table until your finger goes all the way through. Now pick it up and gently stretch it open. Do it as gradually and evenly as you can. You don't have to stretch it all the way right now. Make the hole around 3 centimeters or 1.5 inches wide. Once you have done that to all the dough balls, transfer them to a tray. As you can see, the holes have shrunk a little bit even. The dough is still elastic. Let's get out of the way, let's clean down. Just a few moments later, the dough has relaxed sufficiently. Now we can finish stretching it out. Do it the same way as you did previously. This time, try to make the hole around 2 inches or 5 centimeters wide. Once you're happy with the size, cover up the bagels, leave them to proof for 30 minutes. During this time, preheat the oven to 180 degrees Celsius, fan on, which is 355 Fahrenheit. Alternatively, if your oven doesn't have a fan, go for 200 degrees Celsius or 390 Fahrenheit. You must also prepare the boiling solution before the bagels have fully proofed. Bring the water up to a boil, add the soda and the honey to it, and bring it up to a boil again. Drop the bagels in the boiling solution and boil them for 30 seconds per side. If you are using a larger pan and you can fit more than one bagel at a time, then you can boil multiple bagels at once. Set a timer for 30 seconds, let the bagel boil, flip it over and boil for another 30 seconds. I like to start them off upside down because I like them to be the right way up when I take them out of the water. Place the bagels back on the non-stick paper lined baking tray, brush with the egg and sprinkle with seeds. If you don't want to use the egg, you can simply use some of the boiling solution. After sprinkling on the seeds, gently press them into the dough. This will make them stick really well. Alright, these bad boys are ready for the oven, so let's get them in there. At this temperature, they'll take around 16 to 18 minutes fully bake. Once they are beautifully golden brown all over, they're ready. And mine look just about right. So let's get them out, leave them to cool down a bit, and then tuck in. And there you have it. That's another way to make a bagel. Like I said at the beginning of this video, you can adjust these recipes, and I always like to adjust my recipes too. I rarely repeat a bake. I always try to make something different or look for improvements. Even looking at the bagels on the screen right now, I wasn't quite happy. The white flour bagel turned out great. It was chewy, it was bouncy, it was soft, but the whole wheat bagel was a little bit too dense and too brittle for my taste. And as you can see, the video is not over yet, so we'll have another go at this right now. Let's make some more whole wheat bagels, and this time let's increase the hydration even further. See, scalding allows us to add more water to our dough, and while I did consider that for the first whole wheat bagel recipe, I didn't increase it quite enough. So this time around, the hydration is around 76%. Of course, if we could increase even further, it would be better, but there is a limit to what we can work with practically here. Because of the handling, the shaping, the boiling, the wetter the dough, the more distorted our bagel. And generally, bagel dough is low hydration anyway. I guess you could take it up to 80%, but I wanted to play it safe. Anyway, the thing with 100% whole wheat recipes is that you can't expect ultimate softness from them. If you want your bread to be super soft and also have that whole wheat goodness, you should make it with a mix of white and whole wheat flours. In fact, more often than not, what is called whole wheat or whole grain is a bread made with white flour and whole grain flour, especially if it's very soft. If you know me, you already know I like to go to the extreme. 100% whole wheat, 40% fat, 100% hydration, scalding on the inside and on the outside. I like to go to the limit at first and then work my way down. Anyway, the second version of the whole wheat bagel turned out a lot softer, but next time I'm definitely doing a mix of white and whole wheat. But you do you. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.